Hello and welcome back to our Cyber Inside Out podcast, now being on season 2. This episode is focusing on cyber attacks facing SMEs, and today we have Rob May from ramsac helping us out. So hello Rob.
Hi Chris, how you doing?
Very well, thank you, very well. So I guess we'll start off straight away with a couple of questions just to open this up. For SMEs then, why do you think they're so attractive for targeting by cyber criminals or cyber attackers at the moment? Is there any indicators which are obvious, and I guess for small business owners, managers that find themselves now being IT managers on top of whatever their daily specialism is? But I know to some IT is a full-time responsibility, but to those business owners that now found themselves with that extra plate to spin or extra bundle to their portfolio, what can they do to fix the low-hanging fruit and make them safer?
Well, I mean, the first part of your question was about, why within the SME sector is this such an issue? And part of it, I think, is the scale. There are so many SMEs, and so many of them think, oh, well, it's not going to happen to me. Cyber criminals aren't going to attack me, when you and I know that absolutely they are. And when it comes to cyber attacks, there's a proportion of them which are very much targeted and they've chosen to attack an organization. And there are some that are just random, the sort of the cyber criminals spray and pray type attack. And you become a victim because you're not taking this seriously and you've not kept up to date with, security updates being an absolute classic. And actually, that's not just SMEs. We've seen some big organisations fall foul to cyber attacks just because their IT department or their outsourced IT company or whomever aren't keeping up to date with patching.
And I think keeping up to date is a really valid point. And I suppose we could probably look at it from the life cycle of a business, that you create your business name, don't you? Then you create your online footprints. We're eager to activate things like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and affiliate it to your company brand, logo and strapline and business name. We then grow and we buy equipment. So I guess sometimes we buy laptops, desktops and smartphones, and we're really eager to get them out of the box, plug them into the internet and crack on and start selling things. So I guess if we could roll it back to that embryonic stage, couldn't we? So you secure your online footprint. What would you suggest to customers that have registered their business name, so it's now their future reputation and brand? What should they do to the classic online accounts, so like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, to keep all of that safe and protect it?
Well, again, multi-factor authentication's an absolute must for everything that we use. Use strong, secure, unique passwords for every site that you use. And of course the standard question is, how on earth am I supposed to remember all the passwords? And the answer there is get a good password manager that handles that. Don't store passwords in your web browser, and that's frustrating because all web browsers offer, do you want me to remember this? But web browsers are just too easy to breach. And raise awareness. Training is absolutely essential. And I was just thinking about the first point that we made, and I think one of the problems, and this applies to training as well, but I think it applies to the subject generally, is people think they've done it. They do one thing and they think, oh yeah, no, we've done cybersecurity now, or we've done training, but it's not a one-off tick box exercise. It's an ongoing journey, and we've got to keep doing it, because the cyber criminals keep finding new ways of attacking. They're really innovative businesses in their own right, whether we like it or not. They are. So you've got to keep up to date with that.
Most definitely. You mentioned some two, I guess, cyber jargons back there. 2FA, MFA, so two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. That's where you attach like an authenticator to your account, whether it's your Hotmail, Gmail, Tesco, Sainsbury's, whichever account it is, you can add an authenticator to it, or you add your mobile phone number. So when you first log into that account with whichever device it is, the account needs to affiliate that device to it. So it will ask you for a code, which could be changing every 30 seconds, normally a 6-digit code, or it will send a 6-digit code to your mobile phone. You then type in that code after you've entered your user account and password, and then the account is safer. So the next time you log in with that same device, you're unlikely to have to enter in the multi-digit code, but anybody trying to get into that account on a fresh device, one that's not seen before linked to your email or user account, they would need that code. If they don't have the code, it's because they're unlikely to have their phone, because it's unlikely to be you. Rob also then mentioned about a long, strong password. Now, we should all get into the habits now of having passwords which are probably longer, at least longer than 12 characters long. Because if you're still back in a day of using a password length of like 8 characters, then there's certain software out there. Even I've got access to the software. It's not complicated, and I could probably hack you myself within 20 minutes if you had a password length of 8 characters. So I know you're probably sitting there listening to this at home or work thinking, Rob, Chris, seriously, I've only got a human brain. How am I supposed to remember oodles amount of long passwords? Well, 3 random words. It's what the National Cybersecurity Centre are advocating. Just pick 3 random words, massively random, so it can't be your favourite pizza, your favourite colour, your pet's name, kid's name, where were you born, especially not your maiden name, because we can all look on ancestry.com and we can look up the majority of people's maiden names. So please don't use them. But 3 random words, squash them together, and title case those 3 random words. So you're now complying with uppercase, lowercase, and then add a number at the beginning or the end, or a symbol, or if you want to be crafty, make the last character a spacebar. It is a character in computers, but you can't see it physically. But if you always know it in your head, it's a spacebar. If someone downloads a load of passwords to what's called credential stuffing or a combo list, where they've got thousands, if not millions, of people's passwords, you can't actually see the space at the end of that. So it was a good tip actually given to me by a hacker some while ago. So yes, we've got to improve those passwords, and we've got to turn on 2-factor authentication. And both of those solutions are actually free. They just need you to do it yourself. Doesn't cost anything, but it will save your bacon, to be honest. So we're probably going to throw in a few tips as we go through today, because that's what we're all about, trying to make you safer and trying to make cyber not complex and make you utilize those 3 things. So I guess we've covered off accounts, and those are all applicable to social media accounts, email accounts, but the technology, Rob, the laptop that we've got out of the box, we plugged it into the internet. What should be like a couple of the first easy things people should do when they first turn that computer on?
So I think we have to have antivirus. Make sure also that if it's you, it's going to be different if this is a corporate laptop, but because IT will be following best practice. But for people who are buying a computer and setting it up themselves, your default account on a machine is an administrator account, and the administrator account gives you access and allows you to do everything on that machine. But you're able to create other accounts. When Microsoft first did this, they created it with the view that you might be setting up accounts for your children, for example, and you don't want them to have access to everything. The best thing is for you as an individual not to operate your computer with administrator rights. Create a user account for you, and that's your day-to-day account that you're using. And the reason we do that is if a cyber criminal gets into your machine, if they're logged on as you with full administrator rights, they're free to do a whole load of damage. So the only reason you want to log in with your administrator account is if you want to install new software or make fundamental changes to the computer. So that's a really simple tip that everybody could do, but make sure you've got that protection. Make sure you've loaded all the updates. Check for Windows updates. And then thereafter, one of the problems that we've seen, the world's moved to laptops. It was one of those things that happened on the back of COVID. And one of the problems with laptops is people don't turn them off enough. They've got long batteries, they shut the lids, they stick them in their bag and they're away. Some updates get pushed out automatically and they just update as you go. But there are always updates that require the machine to be updated. And I plead with users to get into a habit of regularly restarting the machine. For me, it's a Friday night thing. It's sort of symbolic that it's Friday evening. I've finished the work week. I actually power my laptop down. Every other day I don't. I just shut the lid like everybody else. But make sure you do that so that the bigger updates that require a machine reboot get a chance to sit there.
Brilliant. Because I generally use that little orange light that comes on in the bottom right hand corner saying your machine is due updates, install automatically, depending on which version it is. It lights up to say your machine is awaiting updates. I see that as a notification for a tea break. So literally restart the machine. It's commonly known as Patch Tuesday, that Windows do push out a lot of scheduled regular updates on a Tuesday. So Wednesday morning, when you first turn the machine on, it talks to the internet, it downloads a load of stuff. It might be a bit sluggish, depending on your internet connection and the speed of your computer. But Wednesday morning, it's generally pulling down a lot of updates. So by mid-morning, it's probably done its stuff. 11's easy, isn't it? Go restart the machine, have a break, because we should have screen break time anyway from these machines, because if you're focusing on the screen, you do need to get away from it. Get up, walk around the office, and at the same time press restart and let your computer make itself safer again. Certainly around Tuesday, so any other day during the week, there could be something a little bit more urgent pushed through by Windows, and that could be an alert or an emergency patch. So it's called 0 day. So where someone somewhere around the world has found a hole, a patch, a weakness, an exploit in the operating system, which is being actively used by hackers. They push out an urgent update. The reason they do it is because they're seeing people fall to being victim of cybercrime. So if you get any alerts come through, I can't advocate enough just to restart the machine and get that stuff installed. And again, yes, it's a massive good excuse to go and get a cold drink or a hot drink, depending on what the weather's like. But certainly, Cyber Essentials, isn't it, Rob? Within Cyber Essentials, if you want to achieve that entry level to cybersecurity, where once you've accredited, you do get free cyber insurance, it's 14 days, isn't it, that all updates or patches should be installed on that computer, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's good best practice, installing updates on your computers.
And it's another one as well, back to your point earlier, Chris, it's another one where this is free. There's so much that we can do in terms of our cyber resilience that doesn't cost. It's just following best practice and doing things right to protect yourselves, your businesses, your loved ones. This isn't just a work thing. This is every aspect of our life. And there's so much out there that you can do that if you take the time to do it, it doesn't cost anything other than discipline, and then it puts us in a much safer position.
Totally. And the controls which we put in place, always I compare it back to the conventional world, that we have we have locks on our front doors and back doors, and locks on our windows. Some of us may have burglar alarms, some of us may have smoke alarms, but these are all controls which we put in to make life simpler and safer. So some of the controls which we would ask to be put on computers at the moment, yes, they're all opt in or turn on or activate. To be fair, we are getting to this point now where it should all be turned on, and if you don't like it, you should opt out. But whether or not you're at work or you're at home, at work, we are preserving and saving the company assets. At home, we're protecting our mortgage, our savings, our current accounts, and those precious family photos. But the same control techniques apply to us all, whether we're at work or home. So it is valuable setting up your computer at home to do exactly the same thing. That might be a bit restrictive and annoying at work because we always want to download stuff sometimes which we shouldn't. We click on links accidentally. We don't mean to do it on purpose, but sometimes we do. And then if we've clicked on that phishing link and then the computer just starts to try to download some dodgy software, like Rob said, if you're not on administrator settings, the computer will automatically prevent you from doing it. That is a free solution. You don't need to phone up an IT team to come around and do all of that. You can just do that yourself by following Rob's advice. So we've covered off keeping our online account safe. We've covered off a few issues about keeping our computers safe. But sometimes the inevitable will happen, and malicious software or ransomware may get into our computers, and it may encrypt the computers. And despite what some people may tell you, the only people generally that can decrypt a computer which is suffering from ransomware is usually the person that put it on there. It's usually the threat actor. So yes, massive headache. The more computers, the more servers that are suffered with ransomware, the longer it will take to wipe it, re-image it, and start again. And you can only do that if you have a suitable backup. So backups, Rob, massive topic, isn't it?
It
what
is.
Do we know? What's the best practice for backups?
I think, I mean, one of the things I say to people is that actually the subject isn't backup, the subject is recovery. And you need to understand what your recovery position is. So firstly, what have you got backed up and how and where? And is it protected? Is it air gapped, we say in the industry? So is there an air gap between your actual machine and the backup? Because time and time again we've seen people's machines be ransomed and the backup solution has been attached to the system and the backup's been ransomed as well. So we've got to have separate backup and understand and test that you can recover, because you don't want to have to pay a ransom. My view is you don't do business with criminals, but the only way you can't pay the ransom, assuming you need your systems back, is if you've got a backup that you can recover from.
Very good point. And people normally ask me, so what do I need to back up? And probably it's anything that would inconvenience you at home or at work for whatever reason if you could no longer access it. So at work, it's going to be the payroll, the pension data, your customer database. Those are good examples there. And at home, it's definitely going to be those irreplaceable, precious family photos, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's different. If you're looking at this as a business, your entire business might have different needs. It's not a one size fits all. So you just mentioned payroll as an example. So the team that do the payroll need to be able to pay payroll on payday. They might have a different backup process to some other departments within the business. And it's understanding as well. We got called into one business where they'd had a ransom attack, and we'd never done anything with them before, but they were recommended to us. And when we looked at their backup, they'd got a cloud backup solution. There's nothing wrong with cloud backup, but you need to understand what that cloud backup is. Their solution was literally designed for backing up individual files. It wasn't in Europe. They didn't know where it was. They just signed up to it because it was so cheap. It wasn't in Europe, so it wasn't even GDPR compliant in terms of where they were storing that data and that client data. But it was so slow to do a recovery. We quickly worked out that it was going to take them over a week to recover all of their data. And they had no idea. They just thought they were paying for backup. You need to know what it is that you've signed up for. The other thing is, I've spoken to people who have paid ransoms, and they think that if they pay the ransom, they're going to automatically get their data back. Actually, the reality is, look, not everyone gets all their data back, even if they pay the ransom. Some don't get any of it back. But also, if they have bought a key, an encryption key or a decryption key to work, encryption is actually quite slow. You know, one of the first signs that you're being ransomed is your computers are slowing down whilst all the files in the background are being encrypted, and that's happening before you get the message. Well, to reverse it is probably even slower. So even if you have bought that key and it is going to work, it's not an instant thing. You know, it takes time to undo that encryption.
I hear that quite a few times. They just think it's that instant magic key that, right, we're all up and running, but it's not like that. So if you've got 10 laptops, remember when you first turned on that laptop and you installed all the updates, downloaded all the latest Windows stuff, then you uploaded whatever it was, Word, Excel, all the cloud things, repopulated your password manager, got all the desktop, how you like it. So, and that's what it is, isn't it? Putting everything back to how it was. One laptop, I spoke to one company that had like 200 laptops. They had one IT person that was going to do all of this, and they were projecting it was going to take 1 day to get one laptop back into the condition it was before the cyber attack. So times that by 100. So sadly, the threat actors were charging them £50,000 to get access to their data again. In my experience, it's like 50-50 whether you are going to get that decryption key back. Yes, there's the international police website called nomoreransom.org, where it's the luck of the draw. If the key you need is actually on there for free, you can download it for free. But it is a bit like cat and mouse and cops and robbers. The moment the robbers see the key is up there on the police website for free, they're going to change it. But certainly restoring the computers costs money and time. And certainly that it was an educational organisation actually. So it was £50,000 for the decryption key from the threat actors. And then the IT company's final bill was £75,000 for getting them back up online into the position they were only at before the cyber attack. So it wasn't new computers, brand new software. It was getting them back to the same position that they were before the cyber attack. So that whole incident cost them financially £125,000. But the time, we were talking months, not weeks, to get them back fully up and running. So you can imagine, can't use the printers. You can't use the smart screens. You can't get in and out of doors if they're electronically operated. If you've got a VoIP system, you can't make phone calls. You can't monitor your CCTV or monitor your fire alarm. Everything's connected these days. And I know that was a school, there were some extra things there, but I didn't use my fingerprint to pay for my school lunch when I went to school. I used that traditional thing called cash. But these days, the kids all put their fingerprints on a scanner to pay for lunch. They couldn't do any of that, so it ground them to a halt. So it's very disruptive, the cyber attack, and we just underestimate how disruptive it can be. Practice cyber attacks, responding just to reduce the damage and impact, because that's what a business objective is, isn't it? It's get you back up and running as soon as possible. And that is why we practice fire alarms, so we can all get out buildings safely. We can all get the most appropriate resources in there that are suitably trained to fight a fire if it gets to that bad scenario, but we do it efficiently, and we practice right away from primary school. Every Friday we stand out on the playground, rain or shine, and we practice. And that's how we get things right, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to that end, every organisation should have a cyber incident response plan so that they know what they're going to do. And it's far easier to plan. And I know we've got a fantastic template at the centre, haven't we, that we can let people have, that if you haven't got one in place, it's really important that people know how to respond when it happens, because I think panic or time delay costs money.
And I think in most instances, we always appreciate that if the workforce or anybody actually responds appropriately, efficiently, not panicking, calm, cool, collective, in the golden hour of any incident, there is a far better chance of recovery. We see it every day, don't we? That's why ambulances turn up really quickly with the right equipment, fire engines turn up instantly with the right equipment, because it's tried, tested and proven that early help, early recovery, reduced impact, reduced disruption. But yes, so I guess that's today's podcast. So thanks, Rob, for covering those topics today. Hopefully our listeners will have a better understanding on how they can recover. But if you want some further information, Cyber Resilience Centre for the South East, we're here to help make organisations safer against cyber attacks by providing affordable testing products, training services when and where needed. So join us at secrc.co.uk for further information if you need it. But thank you.